Okay, hello everybody. This is Joe Shanahan here from VoIP Supply. We've also got Tommy Lee with us here from Fanvil. Tommy's going to go over some information regarding Fanvil and the product lines and the management system and all that kind of good stuff. Thanks for joining us here today. We're going to go through a few slides for you, so we'll switch over to the next one here. And just if you could, as we go through the webinar, if you do have questions that come up, we ask if you just go down to the right-hand bottom corner of your screen, you'll see a little Q&A button. Let's try to use that for any questions that you might have that come up during the presentation, and then we can answer those at the end. It's a lot easier to do it that way than to do it through the chat function. That way we can keep records of all of the questions and make sure everything gets answered. So you'll see that little Q&A button down in the bottom right-hand corner. And we just ask that you submit any questions you have as we're going along here. Just submit it through that button there. Much appreciated. And then as we go on to the next one here, just a little quick something here about VoIP Supply. Again, thank you all for joining us today at this webinar that we're sponsoring here with Fanvil. But if, hopefully you know a little bit about VoIP Supply, but we've been in business for quite a while. It's 2002. Right back in the beginning of when this industry was really starting to take hold. And just a little bit about some of our reseller benefits that we might have here that could interest you. We have our rental program, which allows you to utilize our device as a service rental program so that your customers can be billed for service and hardware all on one bill. One low monthly payment makes it nice and easy. Here at VoIP Supply, we also have our hardware and provisioning services. We feature over 60 manufacturers, 16,000 products, and we can support and provision all of those products that you'll see on our website or that are out there in the industry today. Our CloudSpan Marketplace, that's a single place to shop for service providers. That's really more for end users if they want to get some different rates from different service providers. They can do that through the CloudSpan Marketplace. And then also for our service provider customers, it allows them to, utilize our customer base and help them to build their monthly recurring revenue through that marketplace that we call CloudSpan. One of our larger services that we do is our fulfillment services, where we do provisioning and blind drop shipping direct to customers for our service providers. So really the service provider never has to touch the equipment. They don't have to do any provisioning at all. We handle all of that, ship it blind to the customer. We make it real smooth and easy. We have APIs for ordering. Just-in-time ordering. We also have private stock that we hold for certain service providers. So we really can tailor that program to whatever the particular service provider would like and whatever works out best for them. And then lastly, our Refresh and Reclaim program, where we offer certified reconditioned products at lower cost to help the end users, lower their cost of ownership of that equipment. And also for our service providers to actually sell equipment back to us. So we do both ends of that. We reclaim the equipment from service providers, we'll refresh it, and then resell it to end users for a fraction of the cost of what a new device might cost. All of that equipment also comes under warranty, of course, of 1 year. Same as a new product. So we do make sure all of those products are tested, that they're in great working order, cosmetically they're in good shape, and if someone has that on their desk, they really wouldn't know that it was a pre-used piece of equipment. Today we're really focusing on Fanvil and just some of the benefits of becoming a Fanvil reseller. Obviously you'll have access to all their latest promotional offers, any new products that are coming out, top-notch support here from VoIP Supply with the whole Fanvil product line, and our ability to get in touch with the Fanvil support team as well when needed, so we can cover any issues or problems or help that's needed from the end users or the service providers. We can provide training on the Fanvil products. That's something we could talk about if someone's interested in that and doing some training on Fanvil, we can do that as well. And then just a little reminder, if there's an unauthorized reseller out there online selling Fanvil products, Fanvil will not support that product or do any type of warranty, warranty support where if there's an issue that product can be sent back. So you definitely want to be part of the Fanvil reseller program to get all of these benefits and to just make sure that your customers are covered if something does happen with that equipment. And you'll see the URL there at our website, VoIPSupply.com, and the Fanvil reseller program. We definitely encourage you to sign up through that portal, and we can take it from there and get you all set up with Fanvil as needed. So again, thank you very much for joining us here today. I'm going to turn it over to Tommy now, who will take us through the next few slides. And again, use that Q&A button at the bottom, and we can answer those at the end. Tommy, I'll hand that off to you now.
Thank you for the great introduction, Joe. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on what region you're in. I'm here residing with Fanvil. I'm out of California to support all of our partners, including resellers and our partners out there. I just want to do a quick one-slide overview about those who aren't familiar with Fanvil. We are about a 200-person company based out of Shenzhen, China, and we also have local presence here in America, which is great extension of support for the Americas business. From a core competency standpoint, what Fanvil does is build SIP endpoints. And as you can tell, the variety of products we actually serve is a huge plethora of products that all comply with SIP, which is really the standard by which many of the PBX and hosted PBX manufacturers provide to businesses today. But one of our key components of business is really our key OEM phone manufacturer. Not only do we produce Fanvil product, but we're also the original manufacturer for a lot of products, maybe even a lot of the endpoints and products that you may have seen or touched in the marketplace. So, we've been in the business very similar to VoIP Supply since 2002. That has been, we have great experience at being able to put out top-notch solutions for you. So we actually do things like desk phones for PBXs, paging adapters, a lot of the endpoints that are really necessary. And then we work along with a lot of the, switch manufacturers to be compatible with them and so on. Exceeding customer and partner expectations. I mean, one of the things I'm going to be talking about in this presentation is that we actually contain and provide tools to our partners. We realize that time is money and that partners want to go on site, be able to deploy our phones, have them work robustly in minimal amount of time, and then move on to the next project. That's what the focus of this presentation is going to be. We're going to talk a little bit about our redirection service and our provisioning service, both self and third-party items that we have partnered up with. We have the classic features on all of our endpoints, like large screen displays. We have Android solutions, as well as being able to up the audio quality. I know that we're really focused in on audio, and we've done many things like adopting very high-end audio, like putting Harman Kardon speakers actually inside our phones so that the end result is a great user experience. In addition to that, we also provide a 2-year warranty on all of our phone products. And as well, from our business and technical support, feel free to go ahead and not only email our support at fanvil.com, but very often reach out to myself, and I'll be more than happy to help address many of the issues that you may have in both business as well as technical people, and at least I'll guide you in the right direction to go. Now, a quick review of our product portfolio really quick, just to give you a quick overview. As I mentioned earlier, on the side of number one, we do a lot of the desk phones, but some of the other things that we do beneath the desk phones is we provide door key systems as well, meaning for security. We provide both commercial grade, industrial grade, as well as indoor type of entrance points, so that when you combine a door key with our phone, you're able to really closely knit video input that comes in from these door system keys that'll show up on the phone, and with a simple push of a button, you're then able to go ahead and open up a gate or a door or what have you. On the side with that, we also have huge solutions for the hospitality space as well as number two. So not only do we do business to business, but we also address a specific vertical for hospitality. And one of the things I wanted to talk about in this is not necessarily about the end solution product, but everything is bracketed in this big red bracket here that talks about FDMS and FDPS. And what those two things really mean is the provisioning service as well as the redirection service that enable our partners to be able to go on site, deploy our phones without even touching them, and be able to move on to the next project. I hear a lot of webinars that go on to speak about the solution itself, but what I wanted to touch on is just to see how Fanvil makes it very easy for our partners to be able to address our solutions into the marketplace. So let's start off at the very beginning. This may sound a little bit like alphabet soup, but you'll realize there's really only two pieces to this equation. First thing I'll talk about is FDPS, which really stands for Fanvil Device Provisioning Service. And what that does, it really provides a redirection service. For those who know this service, you may take a little break for a while, but for those that are unfamiliar, what that redirection service is that when you take a phone out of the box and pick it up and put it on the internet for the first time, what it does is it takes a peek over at saying, am I a standard phone or does somebody specially own me so I can set up in a specific configuration? What I'm going to talk about is the latter, so that when the phone wakes up, it actually takes a peek to our redirection service and says, am I a standard phone or do I just operate under a specific service provider or a specific integrator or a specific IT setting when I wake up? And that's what really happens. And what happens is that under standard settings, the phone will just boot up on its own and it'll come up with the standard configuration, enabling the end user to be able to put in their settings manually or automatically, depending on how they set it up. But what the redirection service does is it allows the control to be passed on to the end user or the administrator to be able to say, no, I want these speed dial keys, I want these particular SIP accounts to really align up with what I'm going to do so that I don't have to spend my time manually putting in all of these configurations together. And then this way, the speed of deploying our phones become much faster. Second to the redirection service is also FDMS, which is our management service. This management service is sort of the endpoint which allows our partners to be able to deploy not only just on one site, but to be able to manage multiple sites in having, things like being able to reboot your phone, running diagnostics, or even giving you alarms so that when something goes wrong, you will be informed about what's happening and then be able to address the situation from a single location. Why don't I go ahead and give you a visual? I'm more of a pictorial type of person. So here is one process flow that actually shows in here where you see an actual terminal that speaks to the first step, which you can actually load in on the FDPS. This is the redirection flow, by the way. And what they do is that the installer actually applies to that account, and you could set up a lot of the MAC addresses into the FDPS. So when you get our phones, you're going to get a barcode that you can take a scanner and just scan them in. And then you can automatically load those things into the redirection service. And what happens is, when I spoke earlier, when these phones are plugged in for the first time, it'll actually check and it'll come back into it and says, nope, you're either standard or you're owned by a specific company, service provider, or an integrator. And then if it is owned by any of the latter partners that I talked about, you can then load your own configuration server and say, no, all of my clients are located on the East Coast. Therefore, automatically load the clock settings to the East Coast settings. Here are the standard speed dials that I want them all, and it goes in, and then you can manage all of this thing totally out of the box. So when the phone powers up, it's already at 98% of where you want that phone to be, if not 100%. And then when people go ahead and run diagnostics, then you could run into the second level of thing, which I'll talk about it later on. Looking at the graphical user interface, this is not something that's talked about by a lot of the other providers, but I wanted to give you a kind of a comfort feeling on what it actually looks like to download something on our redirection service. You know, I just put together a quick test account that you can go ahead and reference, and you can have your account, but you could actually, you know, divide up specific accounts. You can order devices, and actually I would encourage you to set up groups. So therefore, if you're setting up groups as separate departments or anything like that, you can go ahead and assign groups accordingly. And of course, it creates a log file for each partner that you want to set up to. So you can divide it up how you want to do it. Now, I'll just go ahead and set up, and this is really the sort of the menu interface for the group settings. So this group could either be a department for the company that you work for, or specific companies that you actually want to go ahead and set up. So here you could go ahead and see specific indexes along the groups. And this is just a test account that I've set up for myself. And you could set up DHCP options, which you can call up option 66 and all these different options to allow control to be passed on to your local company. And then you can really update all of these things and provide edits to all the different redirection services that you want to set up for that specific group. So if you have 2 or 3 different customers, or 50 or 300 different customers, you can all manually redirect and set up specific local configuration servers using this FDPS redirection service. Now, what I showed before really relayed the service when you do it via the manual, right? By a person updating it with the terminal. What we've also done is we have an RPS feature which allows for people who work with a specific third-party PBX engine. I have a whole list down below for you that actually lists and could automate the PBX. So if you like to work with just working the PBX configuration management, you could then have them automatically control that redirection service. So then you still have a single interface. So you have 2 options. You can do it manually via a terminal, doing one by one, or if you're specific dedicated to a PBX, you may see if that PBX has automatic connection services to our RPS interface, which is just nothing but an API that allows that PBX to control the redirection service, so then you can deploy the phones as you see fit. So both options exist and provides that same level of service for you. All right. Now that's really part 1 of our redirection service. It's pretty simple. All it really is just a server that passes relay control saying, no, this is now owned by John Smith or Jane Doe that wants to really configure the server that you want to do. Now let's move into the second stage of the management service. You can actually use FDMS, or you can have your own configuration server, which is what a lot of the industry does. But we want to provide the options for you to being able to go ahead and control that. And as I list here, you could have Fanvil phones and intercom systems all tied in, as I showed in that big flow program, that you can do lots of different things. You can do things like program card access. You can go ahead and see video with this management system. But what this does is all of a sudden defaults that if you decide to go ahead with Fanvil, you will go ahead and have this one thing provide the single GUI to manage all of your systems. So that's one option. And as I mentioned before, you could also use on-premise or hosted PBX to really identify with a lot of these different these engines, or you could use your third-party provisioning method. Many clients, will like to have their own provisioning service and program on their own. So depending on what level you are, if you're a low-level programmer, you want to do something custom, by all means, you can do that and work together with our redirection service, and you're all set. If you don't have it, then FDMS will probably take you halfway through it so that you can go ahead and get a lot of that set up in advance for you. Now, what are the features? As I showed here, the Fanvil device management system provides remote device management through TR69. Now, I don't want to throw alphabet soup at you, but TR69 is really a standard by which a lot of the large companies, Comcast, what have you, that control their endpoints. We use the same protocol from our FDMS server to be able to control our endpoints as well. So you can do it either through the cloud or actually on-prem. And it provides things like being able to provide you with reboot devices. You're able to monitor the status of all your endpoints. You could also do debugging. You know, imagine when you deploy these phones into a dental office, no one in that office is going to know how to go ahead and look into the IP address of your phone and give you diagnostics. But what this does, it gives you the ability to take a peephole into the phone itself and find out what's going on, and maybe perhaps all it needs is a reboot. You know, if it addresses a bug, you could also upgrade the device as well using the management system. But you could do this via FDMS, or you can do it via your own configuration server as well. So it's really up to you. Configuration, and then you could also just use it to deploy. It really depends on what you want to do as a deployment service. Now let's look at the alternatives. You know, I just talked about the Fanvil device management service, but as I mentioned earlier, you could also use third-party management systems as well. You know, not everyone is listed on here will support it, but most of them do. So that if you want to list them, you can see if it directly manages it, or you could even refer to third-party people that we work with. A Phonism, for example, is a third-party management operating system that you can hire them, if that's what you're used to be able to manage our devices as well. And of course, you can do your own custom configuration server depending on what your business needs are. Now let's dig a little bit deeper into the accounts. As I showed you earlier, you can actually go down in different levels and actually have different administrators, which is the top level person, and actually have level 1 and level 2 accounts. And each level, the administrator will be able to assign different roles and different account relationships that they have with you. And that gives really the partner the ability to be able to manage different sites and that have totally different configurations, you know. And then you can manage the different roles. You might be able to give a local IT person at that site some level of capabilities, but you may not want to pass on all levels of capability. When you click on the management account, you know, here goes sort of the role management menu. When you look on the left-hand side, you see account management. You see all of the different options that are provided to you. You could set up sub-account lists, and you can set up role management where you can divide. You can actually click on each of the different roles that each account will actually have based upon the administrator's approval. These are the little subsets that really give you the full control about what's actually happening in the field. Some of the features, as I mentioned earlier, you could talk about alarm notification of failures. I mean, very often you may want to take a look if something is sort of behaving a little flaky. You can catch that in advance, probably before it actually fails. You can be notified via web, SMS, which is also an optional feature, or even just have them send you a quick email advising you these logs. And all of these systems, you can set up logs so that you, the administrator, can check the background of where all these phones are and look at how that phone is operating, probably be able to address it, excuse me, before the actual call happens. You know, for the door management systems, we have things like not only can you input it by a keyboard or just a single push button, but you can have card access. You can use FDMS to control card programming so that if you have RFID card access, you can actually have a programming device that's controlled by this FDMS feature so that you can program 1 to several hundred card accesses for employee access into the system. So all of these things are built based on SIP, and we provide that single interface to be able to give you access to all of these different things. Others, we also provide video camera for looking in. Because it's a management interface, you do have video access to all of these endpoints. You could, by any means, log into specific intercoms or intercoms with video and be able to look on your PC all the different videos that's actually happening there. That could be done via inside the company for video access, or you could use any one of our phones that have a video decoder that's in the phone so you can see it pop up on the screen in live video. Moving on to the next is really, you know, the group GUI or the group user interface. This is one of the first things we actually ask people to set up. As I mentioned in the redirection service, you could set up different groups and you can tie those groups onto the management server where you can actually program what device, what area devices, and what groups that you want to control and look at all the different features that you want to do. And again, here are some of the tab settings that you see along here, where you see the reboot, being able to do a factory reset remotely, being able to provision a phone or re-provision a phone. These are all the different options that one will have. Let's look at the provisioning service. Now, I set up a provisioning service for the X6U, which is really one of our medium to high-end phones. And if you notice, automatically that's menu-driven here. With this click, it automatically has 20 SIP lines. So what happens is automatically all of these SIP accounts show up from 0 all the way to 20, offering you the capability of being able to set up specific SIP accounts for each one of those SIP lines, as well as being able to configure what TR69 settings, the dial plan, the features, and all the different settings for each of the phones. And this kind of gives you a kind of a prelude of all the things that you can do. And of course, if you're configuring all of these phones, people talk about security. It's like, wow, there's a lot of information online. And obviously for both account management and device access, we use a secure HTTPS connection as well as password encryption to protect all these accounts. So, outside of the administrator, which has in essence global access, we use a very secure protocol to be able to secure access so that nobody on the outside will be able to peek in and be able to break any of the codes and have a breach within any corporate security. So that's really the discovery. And having those two devices, you may ask, how do I go ahead and gain access to it? Now, it's not often I provide these webinars because both of these services that we provide is really free of charge. But all you would need to do is to send an email access to either sales@fanvil.com or send it to support@fanvil.com. Identify your role, the company role, and then we'll be more than happy to sort of set up an account in either one of those things and be able to allow you to sort of kick drive it before we actually, send a full download feature so that you can go ahead and manage our devices. We do take a look at it. We ask that you provide a domain name for your email address as a corporate address or some company name address. People like Gmail or Yahoo, a lot of people, that's kind of a side business where people like to entertain and be able to teach themselves these things. But, this is more of a business to business, and we want to, in essence, make sure that we send these accounts and provide this capability to the right type of partners. So again, a test drive down below. We'll go ahead and establish an account for you and it's for your evaluation, just like they set up an account for myself. And you can see if it really meets your needs. I'm available, as well as I can arrange a talk if you need further information on this with our product management group to talk further on this. But it gives you really an easy way to kind of get access to our capabilities. Here is my contact information for your reference. I will go ahead and provide a soft copy to Joe on this presentation. So if you want a copy of this, feel free to contact Joe Shanahan for this. He'll be more than happy to distribute a soft copy for your reference. This is my contact information with a lot of the useful links for tech support and data sheets, etc. Again, thank you very much for your time. And I want to pass this back on to Joe.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Tommy. You can see my contact information there as well. That is my my direct line there and email address. If you do have any other questions or things come up that you would like to have or get signed up in the Fanvil reseller program, I can help you with that. A couple of questions did come in. One about the copy of the webinar. Yes, we will be sending that out. Our marketing team will be sending out these slides to everybody. We'll also be sending out the recording. That takes a few days more to get that out. So we'll be sending out the slides, then we'll also be sending out the recording a few days later. So a couple questions here also maybe, Tommy, for you about FDPS. One question here is what will happen if I input the wrong MAC address? Will I provision somebody else's phone?
No, not necessarily. The MAC addresses aren't always serial. If you make a mistake on that, then you're going to realize when you try to provision a specific phone, the phone that you're targeting won't necessarily have that happen. What typically happens in a mass deployment scenario, you usually do this via a barcode scanner, so that very often on our box as well as on the container, you can just scan these things in. So putting in, nobody wants to put in a MAC address manually, especially if you're doing mass deployment. That'll be like putting in a vehicle ID number for all the different cars in a parking lot, and that's just insane. And so we realized that, and that's why we put the ability for you to import into a CSV file all of the different MAC addresses that you do on a barcode, and then import all of those MAC addresses into this management system so that it's all automated into it. So I've done this myself in the past, where you can just scan them in and they all go into a specific Excel file. And then you could take this 2-column Excel file, which just contains all the MACs and the specific model number, and then just import whether it's 2 or 2,000 of them into this automatically. So if you do it that way, then you're not going to necessarily run into any numbering issues. If you do it once or twice, you're going to end up realizing that you're going to try to redirect it, and you'll realize real time that the number you entered is the wrong, number, and that it won't necessarily, you'll run into problem where you realize that you put in the wrong number, so that you're not getting the end result that you're looking for.
Okay, great. Let me see here. What else? Here's one. Does the FDMS provide an aggregator for multiple door boxes, so one may track a specific person's comings and goings?
I do know that the FDMS contains logs. I myself haven't set up a log, but I do know that for the case of phones, you can actually log the phone logs for all of the different calls, as well as the different receipts that it gets, because that's its function. But at the same time, for the interface, for the intercom unit, I'm sure it may contain specific codes. Like, say, for example, if you have card 1 and I have card 2, each time a person has that access, you can actually contain those logs on the server. I myself haven't seen that, but I can go ahead and touch base with product management and come back to that individual with a thing. But I'm pretty sure it does, because one of the big functions that FDMS does is it provides a logging feature, so that it does give each endpoint device. I do know about the phones, but in terms of the intercom system, it may log all the different entries that people have come with, especially if it's card access.
Okay. Let's see here. Does the FDMS support SMS alerts to US phones?
Yes, it does. In fact, on the last slide, you can actually provide, it's an optional feature that you can go ahead and provide that. I think you would have to work with a third-party phone manufacturer to get SMS set up to be able to transmit the signals. But to answer your question, yes, we have all the provisions necessary so that you can get an SMS message should an alert or a critical urgent alert come up. In addition to email, in addition to setting flags on the actual web interface of FDMS.
Okay, and then I guess a follow-up to the wrong MAC address. What does happen if a wrong MAC address is entered?
I'm not. I don't know if I've ever encountered that personally. I may have to check to find out what actually happens. I think if you enter the wrong MAC address, then technically speaking, what may happen is whoever may put in that MAC address may or may not be affected. Depending on if it happens to be a standard MAC address. If you just coincidentally put in a MAC address that happens to line up with another phone, then it may end up being affected by it. On the other hand, it also gives on that note, it also gives the user the ability to delete or be able to address that phone in real time, to be able to add or delete it. Like in the case of PBXs, what you can do is be able to set it up so that you can enable them to add or delete MAC addresses if necessary, as long as they have admin privileges for getting rid of that MAC address at the redirection server.
Okay.
So usually if a phone is going down, you find out pretty much in real time, because these are real-time devices. And when something is being configured wrong, then yeah, you may end up having issues with putting in the wrong MAC address.
All right, I do have another one here. Does FDMS provide MOS scores or other quality call quality information that would help the actual customer understand where their quality issues lie?
MOS scores? No, I think at this stage, MOS scores are not calculated under FDMS. I know that you can look at it to see if whether or not you could actually see whether it's online or not, but I don't believe it actually calculates or provides MOS scores to be able to gauge the level. But have that person. Get that person's contact information. I can double check that. I take that as an action item, MOS scores for FDMS. I can get back and confirm whether or not it's done that or not. But my gut tells me that in coming up with an actual score, I don't think it does, but I'll need to confirm that.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that came from Julia. So Julia, if you're listening, if you could just shoot me an email at my email address on the screen there now, jshanahan@voipsupply.com. We'll work on getting that answered.
Yep.
Another one here that just came in. Okay, so it says via TR069.
Yes.
Can the FDMS access a device at a customer location to hit the phone's GUI and specifically download a PCAP?
Ooh, you mean bring the PCAP from the actual phone to the app? I think you would have access to it, to the actual PCAP of the phone. So if the phone had a PCAP, let me double check on that. You should be able to gain access to it, but let me double check on that. Can you get that person's contact and I'll get back to him? PCAP download?
Okay, sure. Okay, Ross. Again, Ross, if you hear me, I think you have my email already, but if you could shoot that question over to me after this, we'll have Tommy work on that.
Yep, I'll get back. I'll check with our management just to confirm that before I said it. But I do know that it's capable of downloading logs, but I'm not sure whether or not it actually supports PCAP logs or not. Okay,
gotcha. All right. Looks like we got time for one last one here. This one says, you state you're an OEM. And it says,
yes.
I can assume you can't name the vendors, but it would be fair to say that other phones that look like your phones are made by you. I know there's only a few manufacturers over in China, so a lot of the phones have similar looks, but
I think given our OEM, not only do we provide our Fanvil look and feel, but we actually have sort of off-menu items that aren't necessarily openly available that we market in terms of design, so that not only do we entertain customers' specific designs that are unique to them, we have a unique. So there's a lot of different features that we actually have. So the short answer is yes, some may look like our devices, but many of the devices that you may look like, they can be custom devices that we put together that have no resemblance whatsoever for what we market. Like for example, like some of our latest products today, there could be some custom designs that don't even look close, to that specific design. Gotcha. So we entertain any design that's specified by our partner. If they want, to have a certain look and feel to it, we'll be more than happy to entertain that. So again, everyone, thanks for joining us here today. Very much appreciated that you were interested in learning a little more about Fanvil. Hopefully you found it worthwhile and informational. And again, anything that comes up here in the future, if some questions weren't answered or you have anything else that we can help you with, again, my contact information is still up there on the screen. So you can reach out to me directly by phone or shoot me an email, and we will definitely, get you taken care of. So with that, we're going to end it here today. Tommy, thank you very much. Thank you, Joe.
Great information here today. All right. And thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day.